Okay, let's unpack this. Imagine being trapped somewhere, not just held, but actively dismantled, physically, psychologically. Today, we're taking a deep dive into an account, an autobiography, that pulls back the curtain on exactly that kind of reality. It's a journey into a world that feels just incredibly unsettling, but the details are so precise, they really demand attention. They make you consider possibilities you'd maybe rather ignore.
Right. And this isn't just like a story someone made up. It's presented as a documented narrative. It's from the perspective of someone called the buyer from World Succession Deed 1400.
Yeah, okay.
And it's a personal account of what the source material insists on calling conspiracy facts.
Conspiracy facts. Okay, that distinction sounds important.
It's crucial for understanding the source.
Mm-hmm.
For the buyer, these aren't theories. They're not guesses. They're concrete things that happen, lived occurrences within this, well, highly unusual institution. They're presented as real events, verifiable from their perspective, and they really challenge what you might think is possible inside a state-controlled place.
So, our mission today, our deep dive, is to navigate these harrowing details. The buyer's experiences inside what they call Blacksite Berlin, or sometimes penal psychiatry. And this place, as the source depicts it, it's painted as a clandestine, a secret prison. And chillingly, the personnel there are said to operate under the guise of an international deep state.
Yeah, acting, it says, alternately on behalf of German, American, and Russian states.
Wow. The sheer scale of that, the alleged coordination, all focused on one person. It's pretty astonishing.
And throughout this account, you're going to hear about deliberate poisoning, about insidious gas attacks, and a series of dental horrors that, frankly, defy belief, all meticulously detailed, all aimed at this one individual.
And it's the systematic nature you mentioned that's striking.
Exactly. That's a key aspect here. According to the buyer, these weren't random acts of cruelty. No, it was a precise, orchestrated campaign designed to break them down, manipulate their perceptions, their very reality. It's like this intricate dance of physical and psychological torment, all carefully documented by the buyer themselves.
So get ready, because this deep dive, it will challenge your understanding of what might be possible when power allegedly operates without accountability, hidden away. And for you, listening, it offers a rare, unflinching look into a world that feels much more like a thriller than reality. It forces us to think about hidden control, surveillance. The initial descent into Blacksite Berlin.
Right, let's start by establishing the environment, this place of confinement. From the buyer's perspective, it's not like any normal institution. They consistently call it Blacksite Berlin or penal psychiatry, not any official name.
Yeah, and that renaming right from the start, it signals something, doesn't it? It shows this profound distrust in the official story of why they're there, sets the whole tone.
So why Blacksite? The source explains that.
It does, very clearly. It's described as a covered secret prison, and the staff, not just regular employees, they are individuals, allegedly, acting alternately on behalf of the German, American, and Russian states, all operating under the guise of an international deep state.
That implies a really complex structure, layered, non-transparent, exactly, far beyond a typical prison or psychiatric facility. It paints this chilling picture of multiple national interests, maybe even working together, all focused on this one secret place. And allegedly targeting one individual, the implications are, well, profound. It suggests a level of global coordination in secret operations that really challenges how we normally think about states and accountability.
So it's a place where the lines blur between national interest and something, well, something much more shadowy, creating this unique, terrifying kind of captivity. It's not just a prison in this narrative. It's like an operational theater. Global powers converging, allegedly, using one person as the focal point.
Which makes you ask, why?
Yeah.
What could be so important about this one buyer to warrant such an extraordinary multinational effort?
Okay, let's move to one of the earliest and frankly most shocking accounts. It revolves around diet. Basic daily life becoming a source of torment. It started subtly, didn't it? Psychopharmaca mixed into the clinic food.
Low doses at first, almost unnoticeable, then gradually increased, higher and higher until it was obvious. Imagine trying to figure that out, feeling your own body, your mind changing, and then the horrifying realization, it's not an accident, it's deliberate poisoning.
And the buyer describes this as provocation.
Pure provocation is the term used. The design, according to the buyer, was malicious, get them to complain. And then the clinic could dismiss their genuine concerns as poisoning fantasies.
A psychological tactic. Really vicious.
Absolutely. It weaponizes their own complaints against them, undermines their credibility, their sanity, from inside the very system that's supposed to care for them. Classic gaslighting. Isolate them, make them doubt themselves.
So what did the buyer do? They tried to find a way around it.
They did. They actively sought an alternative, started purchasing food from an affiliated delivery service, and for a little while, it actually worked. The food seemed clean.
That detail feels important. It shows them fighting back, trying to regain some control. A small victory.
A very small, very fragile victory. Because, like everything else in this Blacksite Berlin narrative, this success was short-lived. Painfully short-lived. Soon enough, products from that delivery service were also contaminated.
How? The same way.
The method was particularly insidious this time. Only isolated products were affected, never all at once. So if something was safe one week, you order it again next week. Bam, it's contaminated. It created this relentless, frustrating cycle, a constant back and forth, destroyed any sense of safety around food.
Calculated. To keep the pressure on constantly, never let them relax.
Precisely. A calculated strategy.
And the physical effect.
Devastating.
Yeah.
The buyer could hardly eat anything. Over 1.5 years, they lost all their weight, dropped below 60 kilograms. Truly emaciated.
And there was that really unsettling detail about being made fat first.
Yes, implying a deliberate, pre-planned cycle. Fatten them up, then cause this dramatic weight loss. It suggests a much longer game, more elaborate, pre-planned torture, not just opportunistic abuse, a deep, invasive manipulation of their body.
Did this lead to other problems? Overdoses, maybe?
It did. This constant struggle, trying different food or drink combinations, sometimes led to accidental, extreme overdoses. The buyer recounts being bedridden for 3 days at a time, totally sedated, sometimes even unresponsive for days.
Just completely vulnerable, disoriented, at their captor's mercy, blurring the lines between being awake and drug into oblivion.
And the buyer struggles deeply with understanding the purpose. Why be beamed away for years like that? They're already locked up.
Right. It wasn't about confinement anymore.
No, they see it as a deeply personal form of torture, a constant invasive breaking into their mind, making every second perceptible torture 24/7 without pause or escape. It speaks to a level of cruelty that goes way beyond just locking someone up, aiming for total psychological destruction, annihilation of the self.
Which brings us back to that question. Why? Why such elaborate, cruel methods for someone already locked away?
The buyer attributes it directly to typical Secret Service methods. Covert operations, done without showing their face, operating from the shadows. That direct link places their personal torment right in the context of these larger, hidden state operations. Gives a very unsettling context to the cruelty, too. The orchestration of mistrust, conspiracy facts, and deep state operations.
So, beyond the physical torment, the buyer alleges this deep psychological agenda. It's not just the body, it's the mind, trust, identity.
Absolutely. And the stated goal, as the buyer perceives it, is chilling. Make them develop feelings of revenge, make them unreconcilable, and crucially, ensure they not know who is actually behind it.
So they'd blame the wrong people.
Exactly. So they would blame all of Germany in return. It's described as a classic divide-and-conquer strategy. Meticulously designed, redirect their anger, prevent them identifying the real perpetrators. It's sophisticated psychological warfare, turning their own justified rage against an entire nation.
The buyer uses the phrase psychologically trained like a dog.
Yes. To develop deep aversion and total distrust against Germany. In their narrative, this isn't just a side effect of the suffering, it's the calculated, intended outcome. Imagine the psychological toll. Being systematically conditioned day after day to hate an entire country. It's an attempt to warp their emotional future permanently.
What about the staff actually doing these things, the ones on the front line in Blacksite Berlin? How did the buyer see them?
That's revealing. The buyer is convinced these staff members certainly don't know the truth, couldn't reveal the real perpetrators or the real plan, even if tortured. They're seen as pawns, meant to point fingers at the wrong people if they were ever exposed.
So a compartmentalized structure.
Deeply hierarchical, it seems, where even those carrying out the daily torment are themselves manipulated, maybe unwitting players in a much larger scheme.
How are these staff members described?
As small-minded, easily corrupted, people who bow up to superiors and kick down to those below, blinded by greed, maybe brainwashed by psychologists. Fundamentally unaware, the buyer believes, that their actions allegedly threaten NATO states and challenge the powerful.
It paints a grim picture. Complicity through ignorance, petty self-interest, unaware of the grand, deep state scheme the buyer believes is behind it all.
And connecting to that bigger picture, the buyer emphasizes these staff don't understand that they are not on the guest list, but on the menu in a coming world revolution.
Wow, that's quite a statement.
It is. The buyer believes these individuals are destined to be led to the scaffold and will drag governments down with them for their role in what the buyer sees as a predetermined, inevitable outcome. It gives this terrifying, almost apocalyptic frame to their unwitting complicity, suggests a huge global plot that eventually consumes even its foot soldiers.
Did the buyer recount any specific interactions that illustrate this?
Yes, instances where staff asked if they were a Reichsbürger, a member of a German sovereign citizen type movement, or asked how many apartments they owned.
Trying to gauge bribe amounts or find leverage.
That's how the buyer perceived it, finding it pathetic, so far removed from the idea of world power grabbing. It highlights this stark contrast, the petty motives of the staff versus the vast international deep state operations the buyer believes are really running the show.
Okay, let's talk about the methods. The buyer insists the sophistication points to secret services.
Emphatically, things like contaminating original sealed mineral water bottles, or doctoring food from the delivery service with only 6 days' notice. This, in the buyer's view, isn't the work of a normal institution or just rogue individuals. It's meticulously planned, executed, has the signature of an intelligence operation.
Because only they would have the means.
Only secret services, according to the buyer, have the knowledge, the means, the operational capacity to contaminate food, correctly dosed and on time, in original packaging. Operating from the shadows without revealing themselves, the level of detail, the precision, the secrecy, all hallmarks, in the buyer's view, of covert ops, an infrastructure of control ordinary people just don't have.
And the buyer presents the core function of these services as, well, pretty sinister.
Far more than just protecting national security. According to the buyer, it extends to manipulating public opinion, setting traps to provoke scandals, using lying press. But primarily, the buyer asserts, their real purpose is to nip any competition in the bud and render it unsuccessful, implying a role in stifling dissent, maybe powerful individuals.
Not protectors, but manipulators of public perception, political outcomes, personal fates.
That's the picture painted. And this strategy is explicitly called Zersetzungstaktik.
The Stasi term again, psychological warfare.
It's exactly where the victim is made to blame themselves or other circumstances, never realizing Secret Service intervention occurred. And what's really unsettling is the claim this is done with state manpower and at state expense from tax money. The buyer bitterly notes, citizens are financing these bastards too.
That adds a layer of outrage. Public funds used for these destructive operations, turning citizens into unwitting financiers of their own alleged oppression.
The buyer asserts these methods, Zersetzung, the dark side of psychology, were adopted and refined from the East German Stasi. Claims tens of thousands of Secret Service employees in Germany operate in secrecy. Media covers up their true activities, only reporting successes against terrorism as a distraction.
It suggests a chilling continuity, oppressive tactics, modernized, expanded, operating unseen within society.
It raises a deeply troubling point. The buyer describes German Secret Service as around 20 agencies, federal and state like BND, MAD, as intensively dangerous serial criminals, operating above the law, committing daily gravest crimes while the justice system deliberately looks away.
That's an extreme accusation, more dangerous than all insane serial killers in history combined.
It is. It suggests a systemic failure of accountability at the highest levels, an entity operating with complete impunity, unchecked.
And the buyer argues they're necessary for politicians, a shield.
That's the argument. Without these services doing the dirty work, politicians would face daily justified attacks. They call for these spiritual arsonists, the hidden instigators and planners, to be stopped, implying these services insulate political figures, maintain a facade of legitimacy by deflecting blame.
How does this connect to the bigger picture, the international legal treaty you mentioned earlier?
The buyer concludes that this treaty, its creation, content, legal consequences is, in their firm conviction, a multi-generational Secret Service operation, unthinkable without their control, leading to the belief these services must be abolished, personnel ruthlessly prosecuted and punished. It ties the specific torments of Blacksite Berlin to this huge alleged global conspiracy, decades, maybe generations in the making, a world controlled by unseen forces.
And the narrative constantly contrasts this alleged reality with the public image.
Constantly. The public image, protectors of the people, early warning system. This, the buyer says, is the masterful deception, covering a far more sinister reality.
They cite the official reports, like the Verfassungsschutzbericht.
Yes, the 2022 report, Listing official concerns: politically motivated crime, right-wing extremism, Reichsbürger, where the buyer claims false classification to justify persecution, state delegitimization, left-wing extremism, Islamism, foreign extremism, espionage, cyber attacks.
And the buyer's interpretation.
That these services have their fingers in everything. They either control much of it themselves or fail completely at their stated jobs.
And they mentioned double agents?
As an example of this control and internal machination, cites double agents involved in trying to transfer rights from their contract, suggesting even within these operations, it's a tangled web. Trust is an illusion. Every interaction part of a bigger game. 3. The battle for basic necessities: water and air.
Okay, so the poisoning wasn't just food. It extended to water, creating this desperate daily struggle for hydration.
Yes. Initially, even the water in original sealed plastic bottles distributed by staff was contaminated. The buyer, being hypervigilant, would collect them but pour the water straight down the drain. Drank from the bathroom tap instead. Shows that immediate need for vigilance, trying to find alternatives, a tactical mind working against these unseen forces.
But that didn't last long, did it?
Agonizingly short-lived. A fellow patient, acting as an informant apparently, saw the buyer collecting tap water. Days later, the water supply gets interrupted for 2 hours, and afterward. Chillingly, the bathroom tap water is also contaminated, gets progressively worse each day.
Wow, so constant surveillance, rapid retaliation for any act of self-preservation. Every small win becomes a new battleground.
Exactly. So the buyer, undeterred, tries the food delivery service again for water. But predictably, that's contaminated too. And expensive. Had to abandon it. Next move: secretly accessing water from the kitchen. That worked for a few precious weeks. Brief respite. Until, boom, supply interrupted again, kitchen water becomes contaminated.
Just a relentless cat-and-mouse game. Every adaptation countered, constant desperation.
Precisely. So, running out of options, the buyer identifies 2 last, very risky alternatives: a tap in the laundry room next to a washing machine, and a patient bath in another cell block entirely.
The laundry room was locked, usually.
Usually locked. Access was difficult. So the buyer devises this clever but precarious plan. Packs empty bottles in a big bag, covers them with dirty laundry camouflage, times their access perfectly for when another patient is leaving, creating this tiny window of opportunity.
The ingenuity born of desperation, just for clean water, paints a vivid picture.
It really does. The buyer describes trembling while filling the water, under constant threat of being watched, knowing that getting caught meant losing the absolute last option. That sense of vulnerability, the psychological toll of constant surveillance, it's palpable throughout the narrative. Turns a simple act into this high-stakes covert op.
And there was that strange incident in the laundry room with the cloths.
Yes, a very strange incident. Buyer starts their dryer, observes a nurse quickly enter and leave the room, inspects their laundry immediately, finds 3 large damp cloths, mysteriously placed there, not theirs.
Incredibly unsettling. Suggests covert actions even in the most mundane places.
The purpose was never discovered. Buyer removed them immediately. But they strongly suspected the cloths were sprayed with some chemical. Malicious purpose. Highlights the constant threat. Covert chemical exposure. Not just food and water, maybe air objects. Creates this unbearable state of paranoia. Every interaction, every object, potentially harmful.
And it did extend to the air they breathed.
Chillingly, yes. This shocking development began after the buyer confided in another patient. Mentioned a past suspicion from before the Blacksite of being gassed or sprayed in a night cafe in Neukölln.
Sharing that information backfired horrifically.
Just 3 days later, their single room started being gassed. This immediate, direct retaliation, mirroring their own past suspicion. Well, it confirmed 2 things instantly for the buyer. 1, that I was being eavesdropped on, and 2, the perpetrators didn't even have their own ideas. They were just reacting to and weaponizing the buyer's own disclosed fears.
The speed, the mirroring, suggests sophisticated surveillance and psychological profiling.
Definitely. The gas itself, described as the worst of all, acted immediately, intensified as long as it flowed. Buyer felt completely helpless, struggled with a permanently fogged mind. Imagine that terror. Feeling your thoughts slip away, knowing it's intentional, nowhere to hide.
And it wasn't predictable.
No. Introduced intermittently at different times. No clear rhythm. Impossible to anticipate or avoid. There was simply no escape, the buyer states. Created constant anxiety, disorientation, vulnerability. Turned their own room into this inescapable chemical weapon zone.
But sometimes they overdid it, drove the buyer out.
Yes. Sometimes stream the gas for hours on end. Buyer would retreat to the hallway, forced to stay inside of my room door, not for safety, but to prevent anyone sneaking in, tampering further while they were displaced. That detail. It paints such a vivid picture of the desperation, the lack of privacy, no real refuge anywhere. 4. The dental nightmare, a form of personal torture.
So the torment extended even to personal hygiene, dental health.
Yes. The buyer first noticed rapid enamel loss, a small, lingering milk tooth, previously firm, suddenly being loose. A subtle but profound attack, starting small but with devastating potential.
And they linked this to toothpaste.
Immediately, linked it to one of their toothpaste tubes being manipulated, laced with a chemical that strongly and very quickly degrades tooth enamel. That level of targeted sabotage against personal items, it's an extreme, insidious form of control, an intimate violation, eroding their very self.
This led to a dental appointment on the clinic grounds.
It did, and interestingly, their shackles were removed for this, maybe trying to maintain a facade of normal care. Inside, they met a small, older blonde dentist and a mysterious dark-haired woman. Her role, totally unclear. An immediate sense of unease in the room.
And the dynamic was strained.
Very unsettling, according to the buyer. The dentist explained every step to the dark-haired woman, almost like the dark-haired woman was the boss. A bizarre reversal of roles. Buyer felt instantly something was wrong, expected another assistant maybe, but just the three of them remained, hinted at a hidden agenda. The mystery woman overseeing something beyond standard dental care.
What happened after the tooth extraction? It was painless initially.
Yes, the milk tooth extraction itself was painless anesthesia, shallow placement. But then, both women position themselves ominously behind the buyer. The dentist inserts a tool from behind near my cheek into the buyer's mouth, very firmly and very deep into the wound of the extracted tooth.
That sounds violating, a covert action.
Definitely non-medical. The buyer experienced excruciating pain despite anesthesia, so intense they convulsed. The dentist then makes way for the dark-haired woman, says, "See?" The dark-haired woman looks, confirms, "Yes, good."
Like an inspection, confirmation of some covert act?
That's how the buyer interpreted it. Their immediate terrifying thought, did those pigs just chip me? And did the dark-haired one just check it? Back in the room, a check in the mirror only showed scab. But the conclusion from the strange dynamic, the pain, pointed to covert surveillance, something implanted in their body.
And this was reinforced later by their mother's experience.
Yes. The mother reported a remarkably similar thing from her own stay in penal psychiatry 10 years earlier. A sudden, baseless, deep stab into her gums during a dental visit. Buyer immediately suspected the mother had also been chipped. Provides this chilling historical precedent. Suggests a systematic pattern within these institutions, maybe targeting specific families over generations.
So the buyer believes the purpose of this chipping
Is for finding us after leaving the Blacksite, since they're always locatable inside. Suggests a long-term plan for control, surveillance, extending beyond physical confinement, a leash, even if they regain freedom.
Okay, months later, the toothpaste manipulation happened again, but worse.
Much worse. A return to that specific torture. Persistent intentional harm designed to wear them down.
What were the effects this time?
Within just a week, deep grooves in the enamel on 11 teeth. Previous good dental hygiene destroyed. Teeth turned yellow, enamel stripped. Teeth actually started to move, misaligning their bite. A dramatic, rapid, orchestrated destruction. Unequivocally indicates a powerful corrosive agent, deliberate malice.
And the buyer was forewarned because of their mother.
Sadly, yes. Mother suffered a similar fate 10 years prior, leading to total loss of all her teeth. Again, this disturbing generational pattern, inherited trauma, targeted persecution, suggests a wider reach for these alleged deep state operations.
How did the buyer try to combat this?
Incredible resourcefulness, vigilance. Switched from toothpaste to just salt for brushing. Carry their toothbrush and salt on their body at all times. Despite this, 11 teeth still suffered excruciating pain. That image, carrying hygiene products constantly, powerful symbol of vigilance, extreme measures against pervasive intimate attacks.
There was another dental appointment with a different dentist.
Yes, a large blonde dentist this time.
Yeah.
The grooves near the gums on the 11 teeth were repaired with white plastic. On the surface, maybe a corrective measure, a moment of relief. But no, it set the stage for more suffering.
How so? There was a flaw.
A significant, almost impossible flaw. On a canine tooth, the plastic overlapped, created a hollow space underneath. Food could easily collect, decay. Buyer states, this was hard to imagine that this was not intentional. Such a blatant, unsound repair would inevitably lead to losing the tooth. Implies even repairs were designed for further long-term damage. Subtle, relentless sabotage.
Then things escalated dramatically.
The next visit.
Dramatically. Transformed a medical appointment into overt torture. Buyer brought to the dentist with hands cuffed to my stomach and in foot shackles. Highly unusual, humiliating, terrifying precautionary measure, clearly to prevent resistance. Signaled a shift from subtle manipulation to overt physical control. Something brutal was planned.
And a nurse acted as a bodyguard.
Explicitly. Entered the room not to assist, but as a bodyguard. Despite a profound gut feeling of dread, Buyer tried to stay calm, hope it would be quick. But the shackling, the bodyguard, it transforms the scene. Intimidation, control, imminent violation. A deliberate staging of an ordeal, not a treatment.
What happened during this treatment? Buyer explained the overlapping plastic issue. The dentist agreed to fix it. Finished grinding, then declared, "I still have to do this." Puts on a clear face shield, then, without warning and without anesthesia, drills deeply through a completely healthy tooth, right through the root.
Without anesthesia, on a healthy tooth. That's brutal.
Sheer, deliberate destruction, far beyond any semblance of dental repair. The pain, excruciating, stabbing through their whole body. Buyer convulsed, tried pulling back. Dental chair blocked escape. Dentist followed my every movement with a drill. Hands cuffed to stomach, couldn't swat it away. Dug fingers into their own belly. Tears streamed from the pain. Complete helplessness. Agonizing torment.
And this was a tooth the buyer knew was perfectly fine.
In perfect condition, they state. Clearly a planned, completely mess-up action. Not an accident. Intentional torture.
And the buyer notes something about teeth and pain.
Yes, the bitter irony. Teeth are the only place on the human body where you don't faint, even with the greatest pain. Then the dentist filled the huge hole, 60% of the tooth, with amalgam. But, crucially, intentionally forgot to cauterize the root. And even worse, connected the exposed root directly to the filling.
Guaranteeing ongoing pain.
Absolutely. A clear intent to inflict sustained suffering. The consequence was immediate, agonizing. Every temperature change in the mouth translated into excruciating toothache. Buyer endured such severe toothaches, couldn't sleep for 3 days. Constantly rinsing with ice-cold water for fleeting relief. Pain became atrocious once the tooth reached body temperature. Prolonged, unalleviated pain. Designed cruelty.
And the buyer believes the dentist knew this would happen.
Certainly fully aware beforehand, they state, which is why they were shackled like in an SM club during the treatment to search it was no treatment error, but pure intent. That reference to an SM club underscores the profound violation. Dental chair as torture device, procedure as sadistic performance.
The pain forced another appointment, but there was a delay.
Had to return. The pain was unbearable. Endured a 3-month delay. This late timing, also seen as deliberate. Prolonged torture let the tooth worsen. Emergency care outside. Denied. Trapped in the suffering cycle.
Who did they see this time?
The small blonde dentist. The one who allegedly chipped them. Reinforces the idea of a coordinated, persistent, personal campaign. She drilled open the tooth, placed another amalgam filling, instructed not to eat for 2 hours.
And the filling.
That evening, 5:30 p.m., first cautious bite of a sandwich. Wham! The new filling fell out with the first bite. Palpable frustration, disappointment, necessitated another appointment. Cycle continues.
Another 3-month wait.
Another 3 months, during which the buyer spent time cleaning the open tooth hole constantly. Over time, the pain subsided because the tooth finally died as a result of the mistreatment. Heartbreaking outcome. Intentional, protracted killing of a healthy tooth through repeated malpractice and neglect.
So the dentist who chipped them performed a root canal on the dead tooth.
Yes. Procedure described as unpleasant and lengthy, but thankfully not painful since the tooth was dead. However, the provisional filling again broke out immediately upon the first bite, hours later. Pattern of failure, sabotage continued. Dental Groundhog Day.
This finally led to external care, an emergency clinic.
A rare approval, but even that was tainted. Buyer shackled again for transport, public humiliation at a busy intersection in Wedding, Berlin. Passers-by gawked at them, chains of visible mark, dehumanizing act, extending the torment outside the Blacksite.
How was the treatment at the external clinic?
Dentist was dismissive, throwing a disdainful glance, complaining about being underpaid, wasting special skills on a patient from psychiatry. Buyer felt it was an attempt to provoke them into refusing treatment. Even here, the dehumanizing treatment, subtle manipulation persisted.
But the treatment went ahead.
It did. Another amalgam filling placed. Advised not to eat. Back at Blacksite, Berlin, after waiting 1.5 hours shackled at the crossroads, buyer waited till the next day. Again, inevitably, filling fell out with the first bite. Cycle of faint hope, crushing disappointment. Psychological abuse.
So this whole dental ordeal, how many times did the filling fall out?
Just over a year, the filling fell out a total of 7 times. Buyer calls it total dental terror with much and long pain. Ultimately, the tooth was pulled by the chipping dentist, no prosthesis, no bridge provided, prolonged, excruciating destruction of a healthy tooth. Testament to deliberate, sadistic intent.
And the long-term effect on the buyer.
Buyer, who'd only had one filling since age 10 before this, describes it as an odyssey. Paradoxically forced them into even better hygiene, constant vigilance against manipulation, deep determination never to see a dentist again, ingrained distrust, heightened vigilance against any medical intervention, basic need transformed into constant threat, permanent psychological scar, escalation and isolation. The buyer's strategic move.
Amidst all this relentless torment, there's a seemingly small incident, but telling. Being seen laughing.
Yes. Observed by station leadership while laughing and joking with another patient. An innocent moment. Fleeting glimpse of humanity, resilience, became another conflict point.
How did the leadership react?
The station head was visibly dissatisfied, indeed indignant, demanded why the buyer was laughing. Buyer's defiant response. Gallows humor. This visceral reaction reveals this profound intolerance for any display of joy, resilience, connection from the buyer. Shows a clear desire to keep them suffering controlled. Laughter was a threat to their evil plan.
The buyer saw this as proof that the staff wanted them to suffer.
Clear proof. Staff were doing everything to make my everyday life hell. Wanted them under constant pressure to suffer. Laughter meant their evil plan wasn't working out. A sign of unbroken spirit. Highlights the staff's psychological investment in the buyer's torment. Any small defiance, like a laugh, seen as a direct threat to their dehumanization agenda.
Okay, let's go back to the water situation. Finding that untainted source eventually led to a turning point.
A major turning point. That second-to-last alternative. The patient bath in the adjacent cell block. Difficult to access, unseen. A precious secret lifeline.
They got caught accessing it.
Yes. Rising early, 5 a.m., filled 2 1.5-liter bottles. Leaving, secrecy shattered, discovered by a nurse and a sister, both standing with open mouths, pointing. Buyer, defiant, acknowledged it, waved the bottles, made a drinking motion. That moment of discovery, a significant breach of their fragile security.
What did the buyer think would happen?
Initially thought, with grim irony maybe, if they manipulate the water there too, the whole station will be contaminated, assuming staff would punish everyone. Tragically unaware this simple act, discovering their hidden water source, would cause staff to completely freak out, lead them to resort to other more extreme means. Buyer underestimated the malicious intent, the severe repercussions.
The immediate consequence was a storm.
A dramatic storm. Buyer, having risen early, fell back asleep. Rudely awakened. 2 police officers burst in, one with a transparent plexiglass shield. Full-scale aggressive intervention, far beyond a normal institutional infraction. Pre-planned, punitive escalation.
What were they shouting?
Where's the knife? Show your hands. To the wall. Hands behind your back. Immediately. Immediate accusation of having a knife clearly fabricated. Overwhelming police presence. Signified a manufactured emergency. Pretext for a severe response. Transfer to a harsher environment.
How did the buyer react?
Remarkable composure amidst the chaos. Smiled, asked, "What's going on here?" Officer with the shield pressed them against the wall. Others struggled with handcuffs due to the pullover. Even under pressure, false accusation, buyer stayed calm. Questioned the absurdity. Refused to give the panicked reaction they seemed to want.
That calm panicked the officers.
Seemed to. Buyer, after resisting passively, calmly offered, almost unsettlingly collected. "Come on, I'll put the handcuffs on myself." Pulled up sweater sleeves, easily put cuffs on. This self-handcuffing underscores the refusal to give an easy struggle. Took control of the procedural humiliation.
Then they were let out, past more police.
Pushed out past a whole host of police officers, lined up in the hallway, a real large deployment for one patient. Led out of the Wilhelm Center House main building to the parking lot, forcibly put into a police car, officers, and a visibly uncomfortable nurse. The scale is extraordinary, disproportionate, message of absolute power, control.
The nurse in the car.
Visibly. Red-faced. Buyer, astonishingly direct, repeatedly asked, "What have I done?" Then accused the nurse point blank, "You're going after the wrong person. The criminal here is the nurse. He belongs to an unconstitutional organization that lives as a state within a state." Nurse turned deeper red, silent. Couldn't or wouldn't respond. That direct accusation, labeling the nurse part of this unconstitutional organization, highlights the buyer's unwavering understanding of the deep state narrative, even under duress.
Where were they taken?
Seconds later, arrived at House 8, different section, immediately to the isolation cell on Station 8A. Psychologist waiting. Made to strip in front of police, dehumanizing, given the typical knee-length isolation shirt. Whole process emphasized the punitive, coercive response to their perceived defiance.
The psychologist repeated the accusation, knife threat.
Yes. Buyer truthfully, calmly denied it. Despite fearing being fixated, physically restrained, Buyer managed to stay calm. Wasn't restrained. That composure, facing overwhelming odds, fabricated charge. Testament to the resolve, mental fortitude, refused to give the expected reaction.
And the buyer's reaction to isolation was unexpected.
Deeply revealing. For normal patients, this is a punishment, but not for me. Incredibly, it was a liberation and a huge relief. This twist, where isolation is welcomed, speaks volumes about the extreme, constant torment they endured previously.
Why was it a relief?
Because Station 10A, their previous station, had no isolation unit. Transfer was necessary. In the new isolation cell. Finally, no more gas in the air. Finally, food and water without psychopharmaca. Finally, unmanipulated toothpaste again. Buyer felt happy and in the best of moods, believed the worst was over, wouldn't return to the abuse of Station 10A after this police action. That sense of respite, even in solitary, underscores the systematic abuse they'd endured. Continued harassment and isolation and broader implications.
But that relief in isolation, it didn't last.
Tragically short-lived. After only a few good days of seeming respite, 2 police officers visited the cell, accompanied by the psychologist, signaled the unsettling continuation of manipulation, even in supposed sanctuary.
What did the police do?
One stayed back, in the anteroom where toiletries, like toothpaste, were stored. Buyer, ever vigilant, observed through a viewing window. Saw the officer take their toothpaste tube from a shelf, then put it back. Seemingly innocuous, but observed covertly. Immediately raised suspicions. A learned response.
Why strange? Police interested in toothpaste.
Exactly. That evening, brushing. Buyer immediately felt toothache on all teeth. Clear and swift. Stark. Officer must have mixed something into the toothpaste tube. Confirms the pervasive, relentless personal manipulation, extending even into isolation. Nowhere truly safe.
So what did the buyer do about the toothpaste then?
Ever adaptive. Brushed without toothpaste. But continued asking for it. Squeezed some into the drain to avoid revealing their awareness. Ingenious counter-strategy. Illustrates the constant need for subtle, effective protection. Survival as an exhausting chess match against unseen adversaries.
And the other police officer, the one in front.
Demanded a voluntary saliva DNA sample. Stated if not provided now, he'd return in days with a court order. Implied threat of forced collection. Another invasive layer of control, moving beyond physical torment to biological information.
Did the buyer comply?
Reluctantly. Wanted to avoid a repeat, maybe more aggressive encounter. Noted they had nothing to hide. Procedure. Rubbing 2 cotton swabs inside cheeks under tongue. Even vulnerable, under pressure, chose cooperation over confrontation. Strategic decision to minimize immediate harassment. Understood the long game being played.
But the buyer questioned the timing, the purpose.
Immediately. Pondered. Where should the DNA countersample come from? No crime scene for comparison, not a serial criminal. Main trial over 6 years ago. Request seems illogical, pointed to covert, ulterior motive.
They felt even new crimes wouldn't matter much legally because of Section 63.
Believed cases would likely be dropped. Already facing potential forever incarceration under Section 63 StGB, that's the German code for indefinite placement in psychiatric hospital. Release depends on ongoing assessment, not fixed sentence. Noted only serial offenders typically get the next level. SV Sicherheitsverwahrung, preventative detention. Shows their deep, bitter understanding of the German legal system, its limits for their situation.
So the conclusion about the DNA demand.
Buyer concluded police reluctantly wanted to go through the path of faking a crime. Would have preferred to discover an old, real crime to justify incarceration, but no such thing was found. Suggests the DNA demand was a fishing expedition. Desperate attempt to find any shred of evidence, real or manufactured, to legitimize continued, maybe indefinite, confinement with actual charges.
And all of this water discovery, false accusation, transfer DNA demand happened at a critical time.
Absolutely critical juncture. A few months later was the annual hearing. Review of the continuation of placement. Specifically, the proportionality review under Section 67 TGB becomes very strict after 6 years. This hearing was a significant, maybe last, real chance for release on legal grounds.
This was the buyer's 7th year. They expected good chances.
7th year, felt they'd done nothing wrong during that time, meticulously maintained conduct, anticipated good chances of release on proportionality grounds, argued continued detention wasn't justified, hope remained, fragile as it was.
But the false knife accusation derailed that.
Completely. Now formally accused in a new criminal proceeding, immediately considered acutely dangerous to others, led directly to isolation. Timing seems anything but coincidental. Meticulously designed to undermine release chances.
So these factors ensured they'd remain incarcerated.
Effectively, threw a wrench in the works. Ensured proportionality would not apply. They would remain incarcerated. Highlights this chilling, calculated link between in-house manipulations and external legal outcomes. Suggests a coordinated effort to control the buyer's fate within the justice system itself. Ensure continued, indefinite confinement.
After about 2 weeks in isolation, there was a visit.
From the chief physician.
Yes, the Oberärztin, responsible for the Wilhelm Sander house. Bayer describes her with stark intensity. Truly deeply malicious and criminal woman, the devil in person, testament to the profound malevolence perceived.
What did she say?
Didn't mince words. Stated directly, chillingly, "You're too well off in this isolation. We'll soon bring you back to an isolation unit in the Wilhelm Sander house. We are currently clearing it for you."
Stared with a hardened expression, left without another word. Clear, unambiguous, sinister threat. Strip away the temporary peace, plunge them back into torment.
How did the buyer react?
Recognized it instantly as a real threat. Couldn't take it seriously enough. Felt completely helpless and powerless. Brief respite gone. Replaced by crushing weight of impending, prolonged suffering. Realization their tormentors were relentless.
And the threat was carried out.
Tragically, yes. After the visit, Bayer collected about 2 nurses from Station 10B, shackled. Summarily transferred to the isolation unit on that station. Confirms the power, unwavering, malicious intent behind the Oberärztin's threat. Cemented the buyer's continued incarceration, the relentless cycle of torment within the system's heart. Outro.
So as we close this deep dive, we've journeyed through a truly harrowing personal account. Confinement in what the buyer insists is Blacksite Berlin or penal psychiatry. From insidious poisoning, terrifying gas attacks, systematic sadistic dental torture, the narrative reveals this deliberate, meticulously orchestrated campaign against one person. The level of detail, the consistency, paints a disturbing picture of an institution allegedly operating far outside normal bounds. Shrouded in secrecy, malice.
And what's really compelling is that consistent portrayal. Perpetrators operating under the guise of an international deep state. Personnel allegedly acting for German, American, and Russian interests. The conspiracy facts presented, the chilling chipping, the manipulation of legal processes to ensure incarcerations, speak to a world where control extends far beyond what's visible, suggests a network of influence capable of coordinating complex, brutal actions, transcending borders, operating with unnerving impunity.
And for you, listening, this isn't just one individual's fight against overwhelming unseen forces. It's a stark, unflinching look at alleged hidden mechanisms of power, designed not just to incarcerate, but to create a specific, torturous reality, where basic needs, food, water, hygiene, become insidious tools of torment manipulation, forces us to confront the unsettling idea that perceived reality might sometimes be meticulously constructed, controlled.
This profound narrative leaves us with an important lingering question for each of us. If such extensive, coordinated, resource-intensive efforts can allegedly be deployed against one individual to maintain a narrative, achieve an outcome, what does that imply? What does it imply for broader structures of society of power? And more personally, how might you discern truth? Maintain your own sense of reality in an increasingly complex, sometimes deceptively orchestrated world. It leaves us with a chilling thought. What other realities might be silently unfolding, just beneath the surface of what we see?